Welcome to Voices of the Valley, a captivating podcast series that brings together some of the brightest minds in the agriculture industry. Straight from the field to your living room, we explore the challenges, innovation, and triumphs in modern-day farming and provide insight for consumers who are curious about where their food comes from.
I'm Michelle Rivera with Western Growers.
Hi, I am Caitlin Paulus-Case, Executive Director of SEEAG.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast, Caitlin.
Thank you for having me.
So tell our listeners about SEEAG and what inspired its creation, and also what SEEAG stands for.
Yes, SEEAG stands for Students for Eco Education and Agriculture. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have 4 primary programs in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, and really what we do is teach students and the public about the farm origins of their food, agriculture, its nutritional well-being, and really how food gets onto our tables, who produces it and how it's produced.
Can you talk about the specific program SEEAG has in place to educate the community?
Yes, SEEAG, we have 4 primary programs and initiatives. So our kind of founding inaugural program is Farm to Food Lab. It used to be just Farm Lab. Now that is a 3-part program. It focuses mainly on 3rd graders in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. We start with an introduction to ag in the classroom, a 1-hour presentation introducing agricultural topics. Then we have the second part is a 4-hour field trip to a working farm where we have station-based learning. A lot of what we do at SEEAG we call experiential learning. So we're really focused on providing students and people with experiences, hands-on, on-farm experiences. And that's what part 2 of Farm Lab is. And there students learn about water science, soil science, plant science, and entomology, and really get an introduction into the entire food system from how our food is grown to where it ends in the grocery store, the market, and then that brings us to part 3, which is back in the classroom. So that Farm to Food Lab program is a 3-part program for mostly 3rd graders. We have branched out into a couple other age groups. We also have a STEM career pathways and agriculture program, which is for middle and high school students. That is also a 3-part program that teaches middle and high school students about the diversity of career pathways in agriculture. A lot of times when students think about ag and careers, they focus really on labor-based jobs, but there are a lot of careers, as you know, in ag that are in marketing or sales or finance or hard sciences in a lot of different areas. So that program really helps open students' eyes to the career possibilities that they have within the industry. And then we have our Youth Wellness Initiative, which is our nutrition-focused program. It helps inform how we talk about nutrition and food, as that is the final product of ag and what we're talking to kids about, and informs our recipes and mindfulness in our programs. And then we have our Farm Day program, which is our community education program. We have Ventura County Farm Day and Santa Barbara County Farm Day, which are one-day events where farms open their doors to the public and offer free tours to the community. And then we also have our new Farm Day Every Day initiative, which is year-round tours and education to connect the community to their local growers.
Excellent. And you even work with a few Western Growers members, especially in those farm days that you were talking about.
We do. We are very fortunate to have some fantastic farm partners in both Ventura County and Santa Barbara County who have really recognized the importance of building a platform to connect with your community, not only for your immediate community, your employees and their families, but for the community at large. A lot of times people drive by ag land every single day in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties, but they fail to make the connection between the food that's being grown right there that they can see and the food in their grocery stores and all of the processes and people that it takes to get that food planted, taken care of, harvested, transported, stored, and ultimately to a market and on your table. So Farm Day helps growers and the community make those connections so that we can all support one another a little better.
Now, SEEAG focuses on connecting the students and the community to the farm-to-table process. Why is that connection so important today?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I've been thinking a lot about it. What's interesting, and I think a lot of people would agree, we live in a time right now where misinformation and disinformation are so prevalent. It's really hard to go online and find 100% truth of anything. And I think what Farm Day and what SEEAG has really been able to do is provide a platform for people to connect and get information directly from growers and directly from the people who are responsible for providing their food. And that is what I think is most important. I think if we all spent more time learning about something that we don't quite know and really learning, not diving into a social media TikTok hole or, hearing from a friend of something that they read online, but actually going to these places and asking firsthand from a PCA or from a farm manager, asking questions that you have about how food is grown and providing that education and that openness, I think, allows for a level of communication and understanding that is often missing, especially when we're talking about food that people can feel so passionately about. And natural resource management, these are not light topics. They're topics that people care immensely about, and providing a platform to have that engagement and connection, I just think is so important in today's world. We don't often have opportunities to ask people directly, not being behind a screen or behind some facade. And that's what SEEAG is hoping to do, really, is make those connections for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a lot better for someone to say they heard this fact from an actual grower rather than seeing something on X or TikTok or Facebook or just reading the headline of an article, which so many people often do.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting, the things that I hear from community members and students too. And students you can kind of give a little bit more forgiveness to, right? We're all still learning. And community members too. I mean, nobody's an expert in everything, but I think it's really important for us to take a look at the information that we're getting and who we're getting it from and being able to digest that and then make informed decisions. And that's really what education is about. I think education is one of the most powerful tools that we have as a society, is to be able to access education. And that's really what SEEAG is about. We really believe that agricultural education and knowing where your food comes from should be a right and not a privilege, that everybody should have the opportunity to learn how your food is grown, who is growing it, and how it gets to your table. And really, when you learn that, it leads to preservation. Education leads to preservation. What you understand, what you're passionate about, what you care for, you preserve and you grow and you sustain. And that's really what our goal is, to make sure that our agricultural industry, our farmers, our growers, and our food is sustained and sustainable, and that we have a community that respects and understands it.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. Can you talk a little bit more about the role that farmers play in SEEAG and how you collaborate with them?
Yes. So we are very fortunate, as I said, to work with a number of growers in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. It would take me a long time to list them all, but a lot of really fantastic ones of all scales. And the importance of working with them cannot be understated. To open up your farm or your operation to the community or to students can be daunting. It's definitely not an easy ask, and we really understand that you are opening yourself up to questions and you're opening yourself up to things that might not be super comfortable, but we really believe that it is really important. And I think our growers and our farm partners do too understand the importance of communication with community members who are living or driving by, or their kids go to school right next to these fields and right next, and their family members work in this industry or their parents work in this industry, friends and family. And for them being able to have a connection to the community, not just in terms of sales and brand recognition, I think that's a big part of it too, is that when growers participate in Farm Day or participate in our programs, community members see that and they recognize it. And then when they see those labels in the grocery stores, I do strongly believe that they are drawn towards that, because there's a brand recognition. There's a recognition of this farm as having open communication with the community and of being a supporter of the community. But I think it works both ways for the farm too, to be able to have support, to be able to have advocates in the community that can speak to them and their operations in a positive way is really important. And it's invaluable for us at SEEAG to be able to show students and community members and teachers the impact and the people in these industries that are massive on the Central Coast. Agriculture has some of the largest economic impact, and to be able to openly show these organizations to students and community members is really the basis of a lot of our programming. When we have students in our introductory program, part of Farm Lab, we ask a question first for students. Raise your hand if you're connected to agriculture. And it's really interesting to see. Some students will raise their hands and say, oh, my dad works here or my aunt works here. But what we're really trying to get at is if you eat food, you're connected to agriculture.
That's right.
Almost every act that getting dressed, you're connected to agriculture. And that's where we get to at the end of the program is we all are living within this agro ecosystem. We grow a lot of food in the United States, no matter where you live. If you eat, you are connected to agriculture. And that's truly the basis of a lot of our programs. You don't have to live right next to a field growing broccoli to be connected to broccoli. If you see it in a grocery store, if you've ever eaten it at a restaurant, you're connected to it. Yeah.
That's great. Now, what sparked your personal passion for ag?
That's a great question. I did not grow up in an ag family. I grew up in a family of a lot of firefighters and foresters in Northern California. And I think I was really involved in FFA in high school. I did a lot of the speaking competitions and raised pigs for the county fair and didn't really know that ag was something that I wanted to go into. And when it came time to go to college and I ended up going to Cal Poly for ag, I found that ag was the only thing that I could speak passionately about or that I could talk about for an hour. And I never got tired of talking about it. For me, I think I come from a little bit more of a natural resource perspective, which I think is something that's lost a lot of times in ag, which is one of those misconceptions that I hear out and about or see online that farmers and growers don't care about soil or water, which I think is the silliest thing I've ever heard. If your livelihood depends on it,
right,
you care a lot about it. So I think I originally came in at that perspective, love soil science. That's by far my favorite topic. But the natural resource management aspect of ag kind of brought me in. And then when you're studying agriculture and food, I mean, it is the basis for civilization. So I personally think everybody should be passionate about it. I have a great deal of passion because I think food is one of the great connectors across many cultures. Growing food is of the utmost importance for our local communities and for the world, and being able to share that passion and knowledge with people is something I feel very lucky to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think farming and hunting are probably like some of the earliest professions that us humans have held.
Yes, yeah. Something too that goes back to asking about the importance of agricultural education and what SEEAG does. 100 years ago, most people grew food at their homes, or there were more community-based gardens. People grew a lot. With our globalized food system, which is fantastic, and it's the food security aspect is wonderful, but we've gotten really disconnected from how our food is grown. The majority of people really don't have much of an understanding of the basics of plant science or hydrology or soil science, and being able to make those connections, seeing the spark in people's eyes when they are able to reconnect to food, something that's so ancestral, growing food or hunting and foraging, something that's in our DNA, but we've really lost in the last 100 years. And so being able to make those connections for people and that level of ag education for me is really exciting.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite parts of what SEEAG does.
Yeah, of course. Now, in your opinion, what's the most surprising or misunderstood aspect of ag that SEEAG helps to clarify for the community members?
That's another great question because I could go in a couple different directions.
I'm sure it's a long list.
Yes, it is a long list. I think if we're talking about kids or if we're talking about community members, there's a couple different answers. For students, I really think that the biggest misconceptions are just how much time, the time that it takes to grow food. I think so many of us have gotten used to things happening so quickly that it's often lost on students of all ages, honestly, how long it takes a lemon to grow or how long it takes a strawberry to grow, and the time and the resources that are required that entire length of period from when something is planted in the ground to when it is harvested. I think that is lost on so many people, and that's building that appreciation for all of the resources that go into growing food, the people, and the natural resources. Helping to clear that up for people, I think, is what kind of is the turning point in education. When people really start to understand just how much goes in to one strawberry or to one lemon or avocado or celery stalk, whatever it is, that seems to be where I've seen the spark in a lot of people. And really what that gets to in a lot of our programs, there's a lot of goals, ultimate goals with SEEAG, right? But part of it is, I firmly believe when you understand everything that goes into growing food and you learn to appreciate it and value it, you learn to respect it a lot more. You respect your food, you respect the people who grow it, you respect the resources that go into growing it. And that speaks to a host of other issues like food waste and our diets and what we choose to put into our bodies. Because if you're respecting food and you're respecting your body and you're making those active choices every day. And growing that respect in the education, I think, is really important. Other misconceptions are just from Farm Day. One that people have really latched onto recently, which is just more of, I think, a testament to what's in the news, is glyphosate and herbicides and Roundup. And the amount of questions about those is really astonishing. And it really speaks to, I think, kind of like the telephone game that you play when you're a kid, where somebody hears something from somebody who maybe saw it on an Instagram video that was taken from a TikTok video that was an opinion of somebody that had on Reddit. And by the time it gets to the final person or gets to the farmer's ears at Farm Day and somebody asking them the question, they're going, what? Why would we spray that on our lettuce? That would kill it. Like, that doesn't even make sense. But somebody heard at some point some big scary name of something, and then it gets repeated down the line until it's a totally fabricated whatever it is. So as I said a little bit earlier, I think the state of misinformation and disinformation, whether that's intentionally put out there misinformation, or it's just a game of telephone that people hear, it has real world negative consequences that the best way to combat that is with education and direct education from people who are experts, who are our growers, and our farmers.
Well, SEEAG gets it, and you're definitely on the right track to helping that. Are there any new initiatives or programs SEEAG is launching that you're excited about?
Oh gosh, all of them. This year are launching a new iteration of our STEM career Pathways in Agriculture program, that middle and high school program, that we are really excited about. I don't think this program has ever had this amount of attention and excitement around it, which is fantastic. And I think it speaks to people really recognizing the need to get young people interested in careers in agriculture, but interested in high-paying, fast-growth careers here on the Central Coast to keep people in California and on the Central Coast and keep these young kids. And we're really excited with the potential of that program to grow in partnership with our local growers and farmers, because they recognize how important it is to have a workforce that's excited and inventive and looking forward to growth and possibility in the future. And that's what that program's hoping to build. So really excited for the launch of that program this year. We also have our Farm Day Everyday program, which is launching this year. And that was really born out of, we have our county Farm Day events, Ventura County Farm Day and Santa Barbara County Farm Day. But we really started to recognize that the goal of Farm Day, those county Farm Day events, is to connect the community to agriculture. That connection can't happen in 5 hours. That needs to be built year round. And so Farm Day Every Day is going to offer year-round education, on-farm tours, and workshops to connect the community to ag. And something I don't think I mentioned earlier, but would be really good to throw out there, is all of our programs are offered 100% free. So we've never charged a student, a teacher, a school, a community member to participate in our programs. We even reimburse the buses back for schools that have transportation issues and can't afford the buses. For a lot of students, this is not only their first time on a farm or their first outdoor field trip, but it's their first field trip in general. We have quite a few students who this is their first time on a bus to a field trip. And for them to have that first exciting experience and step off the bus and be on a farm is so cool.
Yeah.
And so everything offered 100% free is really a goal part of ours. And with every new initiative and program that we launch, that's always the underlying mission, is that it's offered for free so that it's inclusive and it's equitable for everybody in our community.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a win-win for the community and for the growers.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you could leave our listeners with one key message about the importance of ag education, what would it be?
That is such a big question.
It is. I mean, I feel like everything about ag is so important. Yes. So it's like, take your pick.
Yeah. I mean, as I have previously mentioned, or I guess I'll mention again, food is one of the great connectors, I strongly believe. And everybody has a right to know how their food is grown and who is growing it. And to be able to ask those questions and be inquisitive and not be torn down, not be placated, not be told whatever you want to hear, but to actually learn about these topics that are so vital to our personal selves, to our families, to our communities. I really don't know if there's much more that is more important than ag education. And maybe that's because I am in this world. Obviously, we need to make sure that our basic needs are met, but food is one of those basic needs. And I think
it's something that every single living thing does.
Yes.
And needs.
Yes. And what's exciting for me about the ag industry and about us teaching the future generation too is agriculture as an industry is so inventive and drives a lot of growth in other industries as well. What happens in ag and food, it truly is a driver on a global scale of invention and ingenuity and compassion and all of these wonderful things that we want to strive for, and teaching kids in the next generation that they can be a part of the solution wherever they want to be. If that's in natural resource management, if that's in logistics, if that's in labor, they can be a part of creative solutions. And giving kids, empowering them, students and community members, to be able to learn about these topics, get inspired and excited about them, and then move forward to make the world better and the world of food better. I mean, that's truly what it's all about. So I guess that would be my long-winded answer.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And now, how can listeners support SEEAG, whether as individuals or part of the ag industry?
Yeah, so we only are able to operate as a nonprofit organization and offer our programs for free with the support of a really fantastic community of donors and supporters, whether that's financial donations, which are really how we are able to offer our programs and offer them to thousands and thousands of students and community members a year, or through in-kind donations of produce and things that we can get out there into the community through our programs. The best way to support would be to get in contact with us and say hello. And we love having conversations. We love collaborations. We love being partners. If there's something that is a particular focus for your organization or for yourself, we'd love to hear about it. We are in a really exciting phase right now of developing programs and really narrowing in on how we can best impact our community and building upon that impact. And we're in a really exciting growth phase right now that I would love for more people to be a part of. I think our community is growing and is so fantastic. But if you would like to get involved, you can reach out to myself. You can reach out to anybody on our team. We have events coming up in Ventura and Santa Barbara counties. You can sign up for our newsletter. We will talk about all of the events and how to get tickets. Everything is free. And then we have our Farm Day events coming up at the end of the year, which are big, huge community-wide events. But we would love to just have a conversation and talk with anybody about this. Anybody that shares the same passion as we do, we are open talking about it.
Caitlin Paulus-Case, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Voices of the Valley. Today's episode was produced by Michelle Rivera. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review. Find and follow us on X at our handle @Western Growers. You can also find us on Instagram at Western_growers. That wraps up this episode of Voices of the Valley. I'm Corey Lundy, signing off. Thanks for tuning in to Voices of the Valley, a Western Growers production. Produced by Corey Lundy, Ann Donahue, Michelle Rivera, Kara Timmons, and Julia Nellis. As always, we'd like to give a special shout out to our guest for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch our future episodes, and we invite you to follow us on social media to continue the conversation.